Hi everyone, and welcome to our live streaming event for the Webequay Supply Road project. My name is Don Parkinson. I'm the consultation lead with SNC-Lavalin on the project, and with me today is my usual co-host, Michael Fox, who's the project lead, and our special guest today, and the answerer of all questions, hopefully, is Ange Brooks, who is a senior ecologist with SNC-Lavalin. Welcome, Ange.
Thanks, Don.
Welcome to and you're here in person.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing.
Yeah, we got the team here.
Just want to hug you guys.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, it's,
everybody in person.
COVID hugs.
Let the magic happen. So here we go. This is the second in a series of streaming sessions, which are the product of, we've done many streaming sessions for Webequay Supply Road project. But what our team did is we looked at the comments on the terms of reference and we grouped them together and identified some of the common themes, I guess, of the comments. And then we've used those themes to develop this series, really, I guess, Mike, right? And we put together this series. And today's topic is fish and wildlife, which is why Andrew's here. And so maybe we'll just we'll kick things off here. Well, maybe we do that. Before we do that, Mike, you go ahead with tell us everyone the phone numbers.
You'll see the toll-free number on the screen there, 833-513-1223. You can actually phone and text. So if you're comfortable just sending a question via text, that's the number you use. And we have Serene Spence just waiting for any text or calls. You can also follow us on social media at WFN Supply Road. Again, hashtag, or what is it? Yeah, WFN Supply Road.
Supply Road, yeah.
And so we have a number of different social media platforms you can follow us on, not just some project information, but also the community information. So we kind of weave those two narratives together so that people can understand Webequay First Nations and its history, its culture, its language, all kinds of stuff. You can follow us on social media.
There's a lot there too, isn't there, Mike?
Yeah, as well as the website. We invite you to come to our website, supplyroad.ca. A lot of EA videos there. A lot of them are translated. We've got documents, newspapers, fact sheet, or newsletters, fact sheets, etc. That you can read or view at your pleasure.
Yes, there's a lot of material, and we're constantly adding to that material, aren't we, Mike?
Yes.
A lot of material. Okay, thanks for joining us today, Ange. Let's get started. We don't have much time, so and many questions, believe me. Maybe, Mike, you want to kick things off?
Yeah. So, Ange, which species of migratory birds? Waterfowl. Migratory. Whoa, long day. Have you been surveying?
All waterfowl is migratory. I just want to say that because
Okay.
nothing sticks around in the winter. But we're mostly looking for tundra swans, Canada geese, mallard ducks, common mergs, mergansers, common
Mergs, eh?
bullseye-
Oh,
yeah.
that's what they say in the business, I guess, eh, Mike? Mergs?
We actually use the 4-letter codes. So
Oh, really?
yeah, COME for common merg, common merganser.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Northern
It's a whole other
pintail,
language.
it is actually. And green-winged teal we see quite a bit as well. And we also see other water birds, waterfowl, like greater yellowlegs and some of the smaller some of the small sandpipers.
So maybe you can take us through how a migratory waterfowl survey is done.
Sure. All right, so we do that by helicopter. We fly over every single water body, every pond, every lake, every stream, every large river, basically just searching for whatever waterfowl are hanging out, if any are still in the process of moving north, or if some of them are already established pairs.
On Webequay, that's a lot of areas, right?
It is, yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
much water there, right? It's
Yeah, it takes about half a day flying
Really?
nonstop, to do the whole survey.
Wow.
now, okay, this may sound like a uninformed question, but how do you? I mean, these are large flocks of birds. how do you possibly count them? Especially when you're moving over in a helicopter at a faster speed than I can run.
Yeah, that's a good question. For smaller flocks, it's easy to count them, but for these larger flocks of hundreds of birds, we're just counting them, estimating in tens. That's kind of the best we can do. We're, accurate-ish.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a pretty good idea, really, of what's there.
One thing we did this year for the first time, one of the guys that was coming with us brought his camera, and when we were spotting the birds, he was taking pictures of them. And then we were zooming in on all the pictures, so it was a lot easier to ID the species.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
So how fast does the helicopter fly, and at what altitude?
Yeah,
does it
we're
fly
flying
at?
pretty low. When we were going along the Mukatai, we were lower than the trees.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's pretty fun because you're flying
Yeah,
along
that'd
the
be
trees.
fun.
It's like a
around.
movie scene.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah, wow.
Yeah, and
Jeez.
we're going about as slow as it can go. So
Okay.
probably, well, I think it's in miles, 90 miles
Wow.
per hour.
That's the slowest.
That's the slowest, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Or
Wow.
maybe it's 90 kilometers. I forget. I think the dials are in
Still,
imperial.
Right.
you probably are. Yeah.
Yeah.
American made.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. It's,
About the breeding birds, like what types of breeding birds are you interested in surveying? And do you survey all the birds or only some of them?
No, we survey all the birds. So all the birds we see or hear, could be anything from the smallest songbird, to the not boring, but, plain looking sparrows to the beautiful warblers that are there nesting, and including ravens, crows, bald eagles, any other raptors that we see.
and I would imagine you've probably seen some pretty interesting stuff. Have you seen stuff that you didn't expect to see, maybe, up there?
I'm just trying to think if we saw anything. No, I think we pretty much expected everything that we saw, but some of the notable birds that are always exciting to see is the olive-sided flycatcher, because
Okay.
that's one of the species at risk. Another one that we were all really excited about was Connecticut warbler.
Okay.
There was one Canada warbler one year seen, which was kind of unexpected. But yeah, pretty much.
And as a birder, which you are, that's pretty notable, right?
It
It's,
is, yeah. And my favorites, of course, are the Canada jays.
Oh,
I
yeah,
love
you've
when
always
they
mentioned
come in,
that. Yeah,
I love when they come in, because they come into us. We never find them. It's a legend thing that the Canada jays find you, because they're so
interesting.
curious.
Didn't we get a picture of a Canada jay in one of our
It
wildlife
was
cameras?
sitting on a run pole.
That's what I thought I saw
Yeah.
when I was looking at that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Canada jay
Yeah,
there. so-
curious.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yeah. That's-
That's neat. What about, I heard about this technology called acoustic recording units used for the surveys. Can you explain to our viewers what that is or
Sure.
how it's used?
Yep. So these are little green boxes that are about this big. I don't know, like I was saying, about the size of a robin, maybe two robins put together. They have a couple microphones on them, and we attach them to trees most of the time. And what we do is there's settings inside, and you can set it to record for specific times of the day and for specific duration of time. And we only set it up for recording certain times because you would get way too much information
and it
of
would
the
just
same birds.
Fill up the
Yeah, and it would fill up the SD
card.
card so quickly.
How often do you change the SD cards?
At this point, I think we're changing them every few weeks or every month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now that you've compiled all that data on these cards, what happens next
When we
with all
collect
those
the
data?
cards.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we do is we upload all the information on the cards, and then we run it through a software program called Kaleidoscope. And that filters out extraneous information like wind noise, grasses moving, that type of thing. And we program Kaleidoscope to recognize the various song patterns of birds so it can group and make it easier for us.
Yes.
And it'll filter out other things, but it's still mounds and mounds and mounds of data
Yeah, I
to
can
have to go
imagine.
through.
Yeah, that's many, many hours of.
Many hours. Yeah, crazy.
And then is there something after that? After that's sort of the kaleidoscope screening is done, or?
Yeah, and then we get actual people to sit there with headphones and listen and record. And they record basically on the same data sheets that we use out in the field. And they have to try to also estimate, based on what they're hearing, distance, and then record the times. Yeah, so it's,
Wow.
I mean, it's interesting, but I think after a while,
Yeah.
So how far out can they hear? Like when you say that, so they're doing it after the fact.
Yeah.
But they're listening as if they're there. Right?
Yeah. Well, you can kind of guess because you can kind of hear like the birds that are fainter. So the distance are 0 to 50 meters, 50 to 100, and then greater than 100. So
Right.
the greater than 100 is kind of easy to estimate. The other ones, you're kind of going, I don't know, I think it's 0 to 50. I think it's close to me. I think it's a little bit farther away.
That's a skill.
Oh, it's never.
I couldn't tell you, the geese, 10 feet, 100 feet, I have no idea.
Well, is that the same kind of unit you use for bats?
Almost the same, not
Okay.
quite, because this isn't an ultrasonic recorder. This is
Yeah.
actual collecting ambient noise.
Okay. But just out of curiosity, did we set some of these up for bats?
Yes, we did.
Devices? Okay.
Yeah.
And has those data been reviewed at all? And has anything?
Yes, I think we
Significant?
have reviewed that data. I don't believe we found any species at risk
okay.
bats. I could be wrong, but I don't think we did.
Are you surprised by that? Really?
No, not really, because the range of those species are a little bit farther south. It was kind
I
of
see.
questionable whether or not it would be that far
Okay.
north.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Let's move on to another topic that I think community members will be interested in, and that's species at risk. Community members often hear the phrase species at risk coming from the government agencies, technical people like ourselves. What exactly are species at risk?
Good question. So species at risk, I'm just going to flip my notes, are species that are in danger of disappearing. So, and that's either the habitat is in danger or the species themselves are in danger. So when you hear about that, it's usually that they're classified as threatened or endangered.
Okay.
And it's based on their population numbers and how much habitat area is remaining overall within their habitat
Okay,
range.
that's how it works. Okay, that's
So, so you mentioned before in the boreal forest, there's 70 to 200?
Yeah, so the boreal forest is really important habitat, and it's especially important in Canada and Northern Ontario because it's largely been untouched. And it is the bird nesting mecca, if you will, for 70 to 200 million birds.
wow.
It is like the bird factory. And a lot of
Yes.
these birds go really far south. They go way down into Central America.
Really, that far?
That far, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So a pretty significant area.
It is. It's a very significant area. It is very important for birds, for all kinds of other species.
Maybe we'll move on to talk a bit about caribou. I understand there are different types of caribou in Ontario and even different types of boreal caribou, Ange. Can you maybe tell us the differences, and then we'll get into maybe talking a bit about some of the surveys that we've done in the
Okay,
area.
sure. So the caribou, there's two different, I don't want to say species, subspecies. One is the boreal caribou, which used to be called the woodland caribou, and then the other one is what they're calling eastern migratory caribou, which was the
Tundra?
barren ground caribou.
Barren ground.
Barren ground.
caribou,
Yes.
yes.
It had many different names, I think,
Yeah,
didn't it?
yep.
Yeah, I've heard tundra caribou as well.
Yeah, so kind of like colloquial names.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
always the same species.
Now, I guess is the main difference between them the range?
The main difference is the range. They actually still have the same scientific name,
Okay.
Caribou
okay.
tarandus. It's the range.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
the eastern migratory are the ones where if you see them in movies or TVs moving in extreme large herds,
Yes.
that's those ones.
Okay.
The boreal caribou tend to stick down in the sort of wooded zone into the black
And in
spruce forest,
smaller-
and
smaller
they're
groups.
in wintertime, they're in much smaller herds.
Okay. Because I remember when we were in Pewanak, Mike, a couple of years ago, they were talking about, herds of hundreds.
Yes, that's the eastern migratory.
And I remember the story, talking to one of the community members, it would be the wolves that were chasing them, I think along sort of an elevated area, right? And there were literally hundreds of them.
Yeah.
It was incredible. But, yeah, interesting. And I know they do come down quite a bit into the,
Yes, they do.
into Webequa's sort of
Absolutely.
territory and homeland, and because we do hear stories from Webequie community members about seeing them there, because I think they can. I mean, their sense is acute enough to be able to tell the difference between them. I think, right?
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, the herd goes right through the community sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right through the community.
This year, I think they were especially active.
Yeah, that's what
going
we-
through the community.
That's what we heard. Yeah.
While we're on caribou, and I understand the team is doing another caribou survey very soon. Is that
Yeah,
the case, or-
just this past winter, they did a caribou collaring program. So we collared 30 female caribou, and we are able to, so we put on a GPS tracking collar, and we're able to track them in real time. So at any moment, we can tell where every individual is.
And then just to follow up on that, I understand that over time, that collar just falls off. Eh?
Yes, so it's programmed to pop off after 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's got a little kind of explosive device on it, and it'll just come
Or
off.
small explosive devices.
Very
just,
small, yes.
Just wanted to point that out. Not a large one. Yeah. And okay, now we've done some surveys, quite a few caribou surveys.
Yeah.
In the area beyond the collaring isn't really a survey.
No, it's not.
Tracking really,
Yeah.
right? But can you tell us a bit about some of the surveys we've done in the area previously?
Yeah, so we've done a number of winter caribou surveys. Those you have to do between February and mid-March, when there's lots of snow on the ground. And that is to track where the caribou are overwintering. Because the wintertime is when they're together in herds. This time of year, we only see them singly. They're all over the place, spread
Okay.
out. So the way you get a better idea of the caribou within your study area is to do the winter survey.
Okay. And we did a nursery habitat survey, didn't we?
Yeah, we did that
A short one?
a couple summers ago, focusing on areas on the calving grounds where we figured
Okay.
there'd be calving. And we actually did find evidence of cows and calf, because we did
Oh,
find
really?
larger tracks and then much smaller ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was interesting, but that was very time intensive.
It was it?
It was, yeah.
And I remember reading somewhere that typically those nursery areas they tend to be like slightly harder to get to areas, like peninsulas.
Yes, I
and
was going to say
where
peninsulas,
there's
islands,
some protection, I guess, from predators.
from
I
wolves.
assume, right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and they tend to go to the same calving areas.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
repeatedly. But the better way to do a calving survey is once you have the collared
Yes.
individuals, we can do, like we're going to do this coming year, the
Yeah.
recruitment survey. And so we'll do
Ah,
another
okay.
aerial survey, figuring out, well, we will be able to track the actual
Yeah.
females where they are, and then see if they have a healthy calf with them.
Wow, that's
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I mean, how many did you say were of?
30.
So 30 were collared, and you said all the females.
We only collar females.
Oh, only collar females, and they were all pregnant.
And they were all pregnant, yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
which
incredible.
I was pretty
Oh,
amazed.
bodes well for the population going forward right now, too, doesn't it? I
Yeah.
guess. And okay,
I guess we can just remind the viewers that they can phone in at 833-513-1223 or text us. And we're just
Okay,
still
we're still
good to go.
rolling?
Yeah, so we're gonna switch topics here, and let's talk about the fishery surveys that were done for the project. The spring spawning survey. So Ange, what's the purpose of those spawning surveys?
Well, the purpose of the spawning surveys is to, again, find the most sensitive habitat for the fish, and we focused on the proposed crossing areas where there was going to be larger culverts or a bridge structure.
Okay.
And we were specifically looking for, so we're not trying to find every single spawning species, we were focusing on walleye and sturgeon.
So the ones that are probably most important.
The ones that are most
to
important to the
members?
community, that's
Yeah.
those are the ones that they indicated to us that
Yes.
they were
yeah.
most, and pike too, but
Okay.
I don't think any of the crossings had pike habitat, and that's why we focused on the walleye and
Oh,
the,
I see. Okay.
the sturgeon.
So, how did you determine the locations to conduct like the spawning areas? Did you work with community members
Yeah.
to determine that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we asked the community members where because they know all
Yeah.
the spawning areas,
Yeah.
and we put maps down in front of them and they pointed it out, and we went there and it was bang on. We knew exactly where to go, where to put our stuff, and yeah, it was a huge help.
Well, maybe you can tell us a bit about what you
what we
used to
used?
collect the eggs.
Sure. So what we used was artificial egg mats. They are basically metal frames, about 50 by 20-ish centimeters. We covered it in furnace filter fabric, kept it on tight with good old binder clips, and then we hooked 3 of these egg mats together to form a gang.
Okay.
And then we'd place them into walleye spawning habitat, or what we thought was sturgeon
Yeah.
spawning habitat, and we usually placed 3 or 4 gangs in each area
Okay.
in the hopes
And
of...
then they're anchored by.
Yeah, we had them anchored underwater. I mean, the frames are heavy, but not that heavy. So we had them anchored underwater on all corners, and then also attached to the shoreline, so we didn't lose any.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And the results?
Yeah, the results, we did manage to get some eggs, walleye and suckers. We didn't actually get any sturgeon eggs in the end.
And the eggs are sent out, right?
Yeah, we sent the eggs off to University of Guelph for ID.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's switch gears a bit here too, because there's another survey was started, I think, this winter, right? And that's the Wolverine survey. This is a pretty interesting one. Mike and I have been able to see some of the fruits of your labors on that. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure.
That project.
Sure. So what we did was we had 25 Wolverine run poles, which are these wooden structures that are attached to a tree. That's one thing we should have a photo of
Yeah.
on the website. And it's got a platform for the Wolverine to walk across. So they go up the tree, walk across the platform, and then there's some upright bars. And the whole point of the uprights is to get well, there's a picture of it right now. The Wolverine to stand on the edge of the platform and put its front paws on the upright bar.
Okay.
There's
Yes.
another picture.
Like that. That's a marten.
Oh wow.
And because the Wolverine is like 3 times the size of that
Yes.
at least. And then we have some remote cameras set up, and the idea is to take photos of the animals when they're standing upright, because the way to ID Wolverine is through their belly, because
Okay.
the fur stripes are different, and then if it's a female, you can see her teats because
Yeah, yeah.
she'd be nursing at
Sure.
that point,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
pregnant. Yeah, there's a Wolverine.
Wow. Look at that.
He didn't go up that run pole, but we did manage to find 5 or 6 individual Wolverines.
Wow. That's
Yeah, which
that's
is pretty
incredible.
amazing.
Because they have big ranges, right?
They do, yeah.
They have a large territory that
Yeah.
they survive within,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not easy animals. Let's be honest, they're not easy animals to see, really, right? They're
Right.
pretty elusive. So this has been a pretty good achievement. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait to see what'll happen next winter, right?
Yeah, it's pretty.
but it
pretty
looks
Are
like
exciting.
they travel, like they're by themselves, like solo lone animals?
Yeah, they're pretty solo. They only come together for mating.
And when do they have their offspring? In the winter, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
they do. They have them in the winter.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because we found what we thought was maybe a den,
Yeah.
and that was right in the dead of winter.
It was.
Yeah.
Wow. And what would their dens look like? Just out of curiosity.
They have their dens, so they dig out snow. They tend to, I mean, I'm not a wolverine expert per se, but they have their dens,
Yeah.
under a tree that's fallen, the root mass.
Oh, okay.
And they put, and then it's all covered in snow, and they dig out the snow and they make like a little snow cave.
Interesting. Boy, that's quite a program, and there's a lot involved in that too, right? Because there's 2 cameras set up, or
Yeah,
maybe
2 or
3
3.
cameras.
I can't remember
at
if it's
each.
2 or 3. Yeah, from different angles.
And how many locations were there?
25.
25. Wow.
Yeah.
All along the route. Right?
All along the route, yeah, and we had help from MECP determining the best locations.
I was going to ask you that next. Like, are there particular characteristics of best habitat for Wolverine?
Yeah,
or-
so it was kind of like, this is another thing we should put on the website, is photo of the study area and all these hexagonal shapes
I've
that
seen
the
that map
province
before. I
gave
didn't
us.
understand it at all. But,
Yeah, and that's why we have 25, because there were 25 of these hexagons throughout the study area, and then we placed a run pole within each hexagon.
Oh, okay.
So it had to be somewhere within the border of that, like didn't have to be in the middle.
Yeah,
It could be
yeah.
anywhere within. So that was to capture, all the areas, and then
Yes.
just using air photos, we figured out where the best place we thought it would be to put that run pole. And then it was, of course, when you get there, if there's no access
Yeah.
with a helicopter, you have to
Right.
field fit it. But we
That's
tried
right.
to get it in areas where there's slight clearing, and also
Okay.
for the camera too, right? We can't
Yes.
have it all obstructed view.
Now, how do they move around in winter? Do they move around across lakes and
Oh,
rivers
yeah.
mainly? Because many animals do, right? It's easier to travel because you're not
It is, yeah.
going through unbelievably deep snow and you're not avoiding lots of vegetation. So
Yeah.
is that like when you've seen them, the few times that our teams have seen them, if they've seen them from the helicopter, is that where they've seen them, like running across lakes or rivers?
Yeah,
things like
or
that?
along the side of streams,
Okay.
like the little open shoreline areas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and fleeting views, you see them, they hear the helicopter, they take off
And then
into
that's
the
it.
bush,
Yeah.
gone.
That's interesting. Wow. That's wow. There's a lot of information there,
Yeah.
Mike. It's-
They're rare sightings too, right? Like
Yeah, they are, it's
wolverines.
amazing.
yeah. That's why it was just so great to be able to see those first photos right from the
Oh, yeah.
stations, because you're seeing that and you're thinking that's a pretty,
Yeah, it's
it
pretty
feels
rare.
good, I guess.
It does, yeah.
For the team, because they've sighted them in the right locations and they've
Exactly.
done everything right, and because they're actually seeing the animals. But there were a few other guests visiting these
Oh, yes, of
poles,
course.
weren't there?
Yeah, lots of caribou came in. Some of the funniest pictures of the caribou scratching their faces on the poles. And we saw that big moose that came in. We had lots of moose visit stations. Lots of photos with wolves cruising by.
But moose are vegetarians. What would they be doing hanging around there? I guess they're just curious.
They
right?
are.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I think
that's-
everything's curious. Lots of martins coming in, going after the bait.
Okay.
Lots
yeah.
of pictures of the martins hanging from the bait.
There's martens everywhere. I
Oh,
guess,
yeah.
through that area,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. They're pretty common animals.
Oh,
But
yeah, super
one thing
cute.
we haven't seen that I'm surprised at, maybe, I mean, I'm not a professional biologist, but we haven't seen lynx, have we?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a species that's come up on the cameras.
I mean, they're in the area.
They are.
But,
We have
uh,
seen tracks, but you're
yeah.
right, yeah.
It's kind of surprising.
It
right?
is.
But,
I think there are photographs of some of that on the social media. Like
oh, yeah,
it
that's
says
right. There are. Yes.
WSR Supply Road. So what you shared with us, I think someone was used for the social media posting.
Yes, I do remember that. But we almost should have a gallery on the website,
Yeah,
right?
we
You
should.
know,
Good
and
point.
just have people can go and see what we've been
Yeah.
discovering as part of
Mm-hmm.
our field work. So that was a good session. Boy, that went by fast.
Very fast.
Wow, wow, that was great. I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us this week, and thanks to you, Ange, and Mike for helping me out here. And we'll look forward to talking to you again in 2 weeks. That's Wednesday, June 30th, 5 to 5:30 for our streaming session, and 1 to 2 p.m. for our radio show. Don't forget to go to our website, supplyroad.ca, where we have all kinds of information. And then I think you just saw the social media links on the screen there a minute ago. So keep in touch with us, and we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us.
Miigwech.